internet is the most powerful information-sharing tool ever devised. And do you know what most humans use it for?
I do, but I don't think I can say it.
Surprisingly, no, Pinky.
What's good, people? Agent Juice reporting for duty. Animaniacs is back. After over 20 years, they have once again hit the airwaves, or I guess in this case, the net waves, to appease us mortals with their divine splendor. And I wanted to share my thoughts about it, because when I watched the Animaniacs reboot, it kind of made me ponder not only the show itself, but also kind of the nature of reboots, especially because Animaniacs, by its nature, is a very referential show. It leans heavily on commentary of the current world. It did so in the 90s. It is doing it again in this reboot. And it kind of made me ponder the meta of it all. So without further ado, let us go ahead and buckle into our favorite water tower, where we break loose and just for fun run around the Warner movie lot. And when they lock us back in that tower whenever we get caught, let us go ahead and smash the like button for the algorithm and dive into the Animaniacs. So, before we begin, let's of course talk about the speed paint that I'm doing. The speed paint I'm doing is Dot Warner, the Warner sister, doing the infamous Grinch smile from the 60s, How the Grinch Stole Christmas animated short. I'm doing kind of a Christmassy theme because it's December, you know, it's that time of year again. So I thought, just for funsies, let's go ahead and kick off this holiday month with a Grinch Dot. Also because, you know, Animaniacs, like I said before, is all about references, so here's Dot doing a reference, ahoy! So there you go. Oh, Animaniacs. When I first heard that Animaniacs was coming back, I was a bit tepid on the matter, because we live in a pop culture climate that is heavily saturated with reboots and reimaginings. There's not a lot of original material out there right now, especially by the big elites. And, you know, that's because they finally found a formula that makes them money. You see, if they take something that is already popular and just rehash it and expand upon it, it's much more efficient at drawing in a guaranteed audience and making that sweet revenue. And Animaniacs was no different. So I was kind of like, here we go. You know, I enjoyed Animaniacs. I grew up with it, along with Tiny Toons and Freakazoid and that ilk. So I was like, I hope they kind of like stay true to its spirit. But I was hesitant. And then they landed that Jurassic Park parody trailer they did.
It's the Warner Brothers.
And the Warner sister!
I will admit that it kind of triggered parts in my monkey brain that made me really want it. I was like, ooh, this looks good. Ooh, you know, they kind of reeled me in. So I kind of felt hopeful about this reboot that was coming along. So as it was getting closer to release, there were starting to be leaks and rumors, whatnot, about the show and how it was going to be political and, you know, topical, which again is very apt for Animaniacs. It was very much that way in the 90s, so of course it's going to be that way now. However, there is a stark difference between the political climate of the 90s and the political climate of today. You see, this last decade of ours, this 2010s, has been quite a ride, which has peaked in this year of our Lord 2020. There is a lot going on. So a show tackling topical subjects in a climate that is much more volatile than it seemed to be in the 90s is much more interesting, let's say. And because of the fact that it was going to lean heavily into the topical stuff in a climate this insane, I was starting to kind of raise my eyebrow, going like, okay, how are they going to do this? I have an idea of how they're going to do this. Let us see if they do what I think they are going to do. Now, what do I think they were going to do? Well, I'll give you a hint. You see, Hollywood, the entertainment industry, if you haven't noticed, has a particular leaning when it comes to topical subjects in political commentary. It is quite obvious that they tend to favor one side over the other. And since this cartoon was originated by a Hollywood elite, Steven Spielberg, he is the one who produced it back in the day, and he's the one, I believe, producing it now. I think his name is in the credits. Naturally, because it is created by the zeitgeist of Hollywood, is going to continue to follow the zeitgeist of Hollywood. So with that being said, I approached this show thinking, okay, I bet I can see from a mile away all the jokes and all the commentary they are going to make. And spoiler alert, I was correct. But only partially, actually. I also had another expectation, a little more of a hopeful one of the show, that was also met, in that there's no way they can get away with being truly one-sided without at least jabbing a little bit at their own side, and they kind of do it. And in some ways, they actually bit a little harder than you would normally think, and in a way, in the back of my mind, I was hoping they were going to go for those bites. And when they did, I was kind of happy. Ultimately, again, they still fell into the Hollywood zeitgeist belief, and again, I expected it, but I am glad that they kind of went for that other side. You know, it kind of shows a progress, if you will. It's clear that when they're doing some of the topical humor that they do that's not so politically charged, that they're making a lot of references during the 22-year time gap that they had. You know, they were making some early internet jokes. They're making some Apple jokes back, of course, when Steve Jobs is still alive. They ape on him. So there's a lot of catch-up you can tell that they're trying to do, but at the same time, they're also trying to make sure they're staying on the cutting edge as much as they can. And speaking of which, one of the things they reference out in the open is like, hey, well, this cartoon was essentially finished and written in 2018, so there's 2 whole years where we don't know what happens. And they even sing a song about how they're catching up on the world, and like the last bit of the song is them guessing what happens in the 2 years of 2019 and 2020, and oh boy, you can definitely tell that this show had no idea about the things that happen in our year 2020. Oh boy. And unfortunately, because they're kind of stuck in they essentially stopped at 2018, they didn't really catch the real roller coaster of zeitgeist change that has happened in the last 2 years, especially this last year. And some of the jokes they make kind of really show. And again, like I said, you have to expect that a Hollywood elite created show is going to lean a certain way, so there's certain expectations. But again, as I said, they did a decent job of being able to poke at their own side, but you can tell they were doing it in kind of like a very, sticking a toe in the water kind of way to not make sure they don't bite the hand that feeds them, if you will. Some of the good jabs they do is in the new theme song, they kind of poke fun at the fact how everything is market tested to be gender neutral and politically ethnically diverse.
A brand new cast who tested well in focus group research, gender balanced, pronoun neutral, and ethnically diverse.
Which I got a chuckle out of, because it does seem like that's kind of the way you have to do it. It's a very Hayes Law kind of feeling. The great thing is you have the new CEO of Warner Brothers, which is Norita, and they make a funny jab about her being, like this strong woman of color who's reached the upper echelon, but is still just a really mean, vindictive person nonetheless.
A female CEO? Any interest in mentoring a young future CEO?
No, I'm a firm believer in pulling up the ladder behind me.
So it's a really great way of showing that, just because you look different on the outside doesn't mean you're different on the inside. So I do appreciate that. But then again, like I said, made in 2018, some of the jokes they were making that were topical in the time really kind of shifted. For example, there's like a whole little bit about, it's called bun control, right? About the use of bunnies as an allegory for something quite obvious. And the message they're trying to push, I'm sorry to say, but thanks to 2020, the bun control issue, as you call it, has been solved, and not in the way you think. And then, of course, there's the second really kind of touchy one of like their joke about Johnny Depp. Oh no. That still I showed you only lasts for like a split second, and I'm thinking that some point in the editing phase, when they realized what really happened between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, they were like, oh, ooh, we really mucked that one up. Let's just show it real quick. But it's still in there, so it's like, come on, guys, So, to kind of wrap up my thoughts, Animaniacs is being a topical show in a time where being topical is like playing with fire. And in a weird, twisted way, even though it's very obvious they have a particular side they picked. I kind of admire them sticking to the spirit of Animaniacs being a show that is meant to be referential and topical. And I am glad that despite the fact that they know which side their bread is buttered upon, they do kind of, as I mentioned, dip their toe in the other side. I look forward to them learning from what is going on and seeing how much more they can explore. And if none of that occurs, I can at least say I really enjoy Pinky and the Brain. I will actually say that if you're going to be watching this reboot for yourself, I would put more stake in Pinky and the Brain because they're doing some really clever stuff with that one. It seems like they're trying to tell a full, continuous story with Pinky and the Brain, and I'm really looking forward to how they develop it. So yeah, I think with all that said, I'll go ahead and wrap it up here for today. So you people know what to do. If you like what you see and you want to see more, go ahead and hit those sacred buttons. Give them a good ticker. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know what comes next. Also, go ahead and please comment below. Animaniacs is a show that's going to raise a lot of discussion about certain things in our culture right now, and I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. And what you think about what I think about all of it. Definitely let me know in the comments down below. Also, of course, go ahead and share the video because I command you to do it. And you must do as I say because I said so. And also because it's good for you, it's good for me, it's good for the channel. And it's good to spread Yuletide cheer. And also, if you wish to stalk me elsewhere on Interbuds, go ahead and hit up my social media links right here on the screen. As well as particularly paying attention to Minds.com. And I always push Minds because they are a new alternative social media that kind of breaks away from the big three, if you will. It's good for internet market diversity, and I always like to, introduce that to help the free market out, in this big bad world we live in. And with all that said, I thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you all stick around. And until next time, come join the Warner Brothers and the Warner sister Deuces.